Greetings, Commanders. Today we are talking research. A lot of the conversations we get into in the inner server chat and the Ark of War only chat and the theory crafting chat is which gems are the best. And there's a lot of discussion about it because Gemini is the most common gem, right? You see Gemini the most in events and Oracle events because Gemini works with all types. So, you know, it's a good one to give away to everyone because no matter what troops you have, Gemini will work. And what Gemini does is it acts as a double strike ability, which is fantastic. If you kill the first slot, you have a chance of killing the back slot. And if you have another double strike ability, like Ghost Cannon or Stella or X or anyone that has a double strike ability, you might one-shot monsters. So it's kind of a cool little thing. But my assumption has always been that there is a trade-off. Because this gem works with all troop types, it can't be as good as a specific gem for, let's say, airships only. Scorpio is airships only. And this one, oh, let's look at that. So Gemini, what it does is here we go. Here's our wording. The 2 set increases attack 30%, which is good. And the 4 set is a 20% chance to trigger 100% extra damage on the second shot. And what that means is, very strictly, if you hit for 30,000, your next hit will hit for 30,000. It doesn't mean it's going to be identical to the first strike. It's just whatever the basic math is, you get that same basic math on the second strike. So it's pretty straightforward. You get 2 strikes. It's perfect. It's linear. It makes sense. Nothing weird about it. But what is weird is how do the class-specific gems translate? Because they're not worded as easily. So Scorpio, for example, it says 20% chance to trigger on airships only, not all troops. And this time you will get a guaranteed hit, and it's a basic attack, and its basic attack will increase 60%. Well, by first glance, that seems like, wait a minute, that's only 60% more damage than a normal hit, and Gemini's doing twice that. Well, you're reading it wrong. It's basic attack, and they're talking about the base multiplier. So when this thing actually triggers, is it hitting for less or more? Well, it should be hitting for more, right, compared to Gemini, because it's very specific, it's linear, and it's even harder to get. But you really have to put it on paper to do it, or you have to put it down in practice to see how it functions. And these gems are not easy to get. And if you're, only having a dozen of them or so, you maybe just don't want to go gem all your gear up and give away your gems. So I have done the work for you. I've made claims in the past that Leo gems are the hardest hitting and stuff like that. I'm going to go do a series of videos, I think, to prove some of this stuff. So when I get called out on it, I have something to lean back on. So in this video, we are doing Scorpio versus Gemini. I'm going to be using T9 airships. I'm going to be using damage crit gear, right? Crit damage, because I crit on 90% of my hits. I don't know what the secret multiplier there is, or the secret math is, but it's 90%. I don't crit on 100%, even though I have max research. And then I've got Gemini Scorpio, Gemini Scorpio, Gemini Scorpio. You see all the Gemini Scorpio? That's how I got 4 set on all of it, so you know I'm not missing anything. Okay, now I'm going to keep this all the same going into this research. So I've actually already done the math. I've ran this about 20 times, and I'll tell you my numbers as I put replays on the board here, because unfortunately it's ace, so it's more realistic than fighting monsters. And I could have fought monsters on this, but I wanted to do it more real world because for whatever reason, monsters versus PvE versus PvP combat does seem to differ. I don't know why, but we're going to use real combat. So in this replay, you can see I have a Beer Man in the front there, so he's just taking away first strike because I'll be going against a Golem that may hit an Awakening and not let me attack at all. So we're not trying to win here, and whoever is getting all these free kills, you're welcome. It's the cost of doing research, boys. So let me fill his troops up. I don't know if you guys know this. If you change your gear at the main screen, all your troops in Ace, if it was gear on that commander, it will reset in Ace as well. So you have to reset it each time. I didn't need to do it, but I'm doing it for continuity's sake in the video, so no one can claim I was bamboozling. So there we go, and we'll start the replays now. And while we go through those, I'm not going to be trying. I'm going to try not to watch them too close. I'm going to go over my numbers. So the first hit here is obviously just to take away the first strike, and then the numbers I had. Let's see. Can you see that? Can you zoom into the post-it note? Hey, look at that. That's the hard work right there. The research gets done on post-it notes around here. Okay, so the front row is going to have a different thalamus than the back row. I don't know what this guy's golem's using, but I do know it's going to probably be different. All right, so the basic hit here is going to be 30,000 crit. 30,000 crit, that's pretty consistent. I've gotten as low as, I want to say 24,000, no, 22,009. So 23,000 is the lowest I've ever hit for. 31,008 is the highest. So it's a pretty safe assumption that 27,000 is the average base hit that is a crit. 90% of the time, if I don't get a Gemini or Scorpio trigger, I hit for about 27,000. Okay, so put that number in your head, 27,000. I don't do fancy editing on these videos. I haven't got around to doing that yet. That's just too much high effort content for no pay. Sorry. So 27,000 is what we're calling our average hit. And then our Scorpio and Gemini is where it gets interesting. I was able to get my Scorpio to trigger 6 times more often than my Gemini. I had 12 Scorpio triggers and 2 Gemini triggers in all my testing. So it is only a 20% chance. I do have my Dominion hull on, but I don't think it affects Ace. So this time we weren't lucky. Sometimes we get lucky in the second and third slots. If he doesn't hit Awakening, we can keep going. Otherwise, he one-shots all of us. I did want to check, because I know he's using Gemini and Scorpio as well, so I could use his damage. The problem is that the numbers are so big, it's hard to actually write them down and compare. So it's easier just to use small troops for this type of analysis. And I don't think the defense threshold takes you over the top, or matters if there's more troops. I think it's just raw. And if you know what I mean by raw, it's just... this game's math. You don't hit exponentially harder for more troops against smaller troops. It's just troops hit for what they go against and whatever that enemy troop stack's base defense is. So, okay, let's talk about Scorpio versus Gemini. So when Gemini triggers and it hits for, let's say, 27,000, the second hit hits for roughly 27,000, which is a total of 54,000. But my Scorpio hits were not hitting for 54,000. They were hitting for the smallest. Actually, my smallest was 54,000, but my biggest was 80,000. So, on average, that's still, what is that? 26, 13 on top of that is 67,000. So I was hitting for about 20% harder with Scorpio. Now this is a messed up replay now. I can't use the results because Cancer triggered. Cancer gives him bonus defense. Oh, he Awakening anyway. All right, so what I was saying is that the base hit was critting for 27,000. Gemini was hitting 27,000 twice. And Scorpio was hitting for, on average, 67 to 68,000. And it did vary quite a bit. It did have a decent range to it, about a 25% deviation. But it was consecutively hitting 15 to 20% harder than Gemini. So I think that's what this research is going to end up saying. It's like the trade-off for having all the options of the Gemini gems, of all the different, because you get so much more Gemini to choose from. You can always repurpose them to get better stats on them. But if you use Gemini, yes, they work with all troops. Yes, you'll get that double strike. But you're sacrificing that burst damage that Scorpio provides. And it really is important for commanders that need to one-shot troops. Like, really just Hoodoo. Just Hoodoo. Everyone else can double strike, that's fine. Sometimes it's even better to hit the troops in the back if you're overkilling. But see, that goes back to this whole, like, win more argument. Listen, if you could one-shot a troop so that your second strike goes again and it kills a bunch of troops behind it, you're already one-shotting troops. You're not in danger of losing the fight. You're winning more. So it's better to have one really hard-hitting attack if it hits harder than a double attack, because sometimes you'll go against a way bigger commander. Let's say he's a 300k golem and all you have is a 40k Stella. You can just put Stella's troops in slot 1 and just go at him over and over and over and over, and you could break him down. And that's why it's better to have one big hard hit as opposed to, lots of small hits. Whatever hits more is more important. But anyway, I'm rambling now. I'm trying to get you guys a Gemini Scorpio trigger in this video. Otherwise, it's going to be all for naught. So let's see. There's the Gemini. Let's see. It's 27,000. Can we get lucky and get a 27,000? It's 30. It's a little bit extra. 10% higher. Will this one be higher? 37. Oh, that was almost identical. Maybe it was. I don't know. I have to watch these things live. So anyway, that was the Gemini. Have we seen a Scorpio trigger yet? Gosh, there's the Scorpio trigger. Perfect. At the end of the replay, or the end of the video, here we go. 70,000. Perfect example of what I was saying. So the two Geminis hit for 30,000, 30,000. Next round, Scorpio hits 70,000. That is pretty consistent with my results. And that just goes to show you. That's the trade-off. If you want to go Gemini, you get a lot more versatility with the gear your other commanders can wear and which troops can trigger it, but it's going to cost you about 15% of raw damage. but you get that bonus hit. But there it is. That's Gemini versus Scorpio in a nutshell, in a 10-minute video. Proof positive for anyone in your guild that wants to argue with you about it. I tried to use it against troops that had really high defense so that there were nothing lost there, no monsters there that can skew the results. It was versus a player. You saw the gear, you saw it all. And yeah, so that's a research video. I hope that helps everyone. And I got more videos like this to come. If you have a request for the next video you want to see, put it in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel. Join our Line community. Line is a social app. Add me, Melt AOW. I'll put you in the inner server chat with almost 1,000 other Ark of War players. This is crazy, guys. Our Ark of War community is growing like mad. But anyway, all right. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.